I, for one, loved watching the Chiefs just get curb stomped. And if you are in the same boat, which I know you are, hit that thumbs up button. Let's rub it in Chiefs fans' misery right now. I want to talk about this game because I do think there are some really good takeaways that the Broncos and the rest of the AFC and just the NFL in general can take away for how to completely unarm and dismantle Patrick Mahomes and this Kansas City offense. Now, the first way to do it is get this guy, which Denver's tried. Unfortunately, it did not go super well because he just never quite got the quarterback position down. But I think looking back, this is a coach that, sure, after 3 years was fired, but is probably going to see his stock and image go up because he did put out some pretty good seasons considering what he was working with offensively. But Fangio and this defense completely shut down Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City offense. Now, it surely helped a little bit that Mahomes picked a bad Sunday to have the worst game of his entire NFL career. I know that Chiefs fans are going to be quick to go and defend Mahomes and blame the offensive line, blame Andy Reid for the lack of a run game. And while that is all partially true, Mahomes just sucked. He had a bad game, and up until some garbage time scores to the end, his stat line reflected it. And Vic Fangio played a huge role in making sure Mahomes was uncomfortable, which led to the worst performance of his NFL career. So how'd he do it? Here's step one. They rushed 4 and they dropped 7. They played a very, in some ways, simplistic form of football. They didn't have any exotic blitz packages or anything like that. In fact, they blitzed, do you want to guess how many times? 0 times. They just sent 4. Now, you got to have 4 good defensive linemen, great depth of the defensive line so you can rotate guys and not miss a beat and keep legs fresh. That's a key part of being able to rush 4. That is a luxury. But the Eagles had it, and they leaned into their strengths. They rushed 4, and they dropped 7 in coverage. And so that eliminated any possible extracurricular activities from Mahomes to keep the play alive and scramble around and do the usual Mahomes things that he always does, which is, oh, you want to blitz 5? Well, I'm going to just peel out of the pocket, and now I've got one-on-ones down the field, and I'm going to pick you apart. So if you're going to rush 4, well, you got to make sure you contain Patrick Mahomes. You have to wall off the edges. And kudos to the Eagles' edge rushers, primarily Josh Sweat, leading the way in making sure we are not going to allow Mahomes to slip out of the pocket and do his usual magician black voodoo magic. No. We're going to keep him in the pocket, which in some ways might sound like a pretty good plan for the Chiefs until you realize the Eagles have some of the most dominant interior defensive linemen that can push the pocket back. Let me illustrate this. Unfortunately, copyright laws does not allow me to roll the tape. But this is from the first quarter. This is the Chiefs' first time getting the football. It's 3rd and 9. We've seen this a million times where Mahomes makes a great play and keeps the drive alive. Here you can kind of see the 2 edge rushers for the Eagles. They're doing a good job of containing Mahomes. If Mahomes starts to peel either to his backside or right in front of him, there's an edge rusher who is right there to take him down. So what does Patrick do? He climbs up in the pocket. Here's the issue. He is going up against really good interior guys who are expecting this. This is not by an accident. This is by design. So now he's got a defender in his face. He has to roll to his left. And when he rolls to his left, he's got to turn it around and look downfield. Nobody's open. Great coverage by the Eagles DBs. Defender in Mahomes' face. This is the first quarter, 3rd and 9. He throws it to the receiver at the bottom of the screen, and it's broken up, and they have to punt. And that wasn't the beginning of the end, but in some ways it kind of was because it quickly spiraled out of control from there. Let's move along here. Second quarter, halfway through. The game's not out of control just yet, but we got 2nd and 14. Got to get some yards here. Mahomes, you can see, doesn't really have the option to peel outside too much because the edge rushers are doing a great job of containing. Take the edge rusher at the bottom of the screen here. He could have, we'll go back to it really quickly, Reed. He could have just made a quick move and gone in between the tackle and the guard. You see that big open space between the words super and bowl? But he doesn't. He's disciplined. He stays at his spot. He keeps Mahomes in the pocket. So what does Mahomes have to do? He has to step up in the pocket. And now he has to start moving to his left a little bit. Except here's the issue. There are 3 defenders forming a Bermuda Triangle around him. And this results in back-to-back sacks. Let's fast forward to the end of the second quarter. It's 17-0 right now. Chiefs have the football. If they were to get a score, make it 17-7, and be down at 10 at the half, well, the Eagles were at that exact same spot 2 years ago and lost the game. So this is a critical moment here. And Mahomes, all of a sudden, finally gets what he was looking for. Eagles edge rushers do not contain. You can see the Chiefs offensive tackle is standing or laying right on top of the Eagles defensive end who slipped and went down. Sodgate all over again. So what does Mahomes do? He does what he always does. He takes advantage of it. He rolls to open space, and now he's got his man. Look how wide open DeAndre Hopkins is. We all know at this point what happens next. Hopkins drops the football. Had he caught it, look upfield. I think he would have gotten to about 35, 20-yard line. He's got one man to beat. He could have gone all the way if he was maybe a few years younger, but at worst, the Chiefs are going to get 3 points to close the half, go down at halftime, down 14 to start the second half with the football, and they might have a little bit more momentum and they might put up a score. That doesn't happen. Why? Because the Eagles sent 4 and their edge rushers contained, and it also was, I wouldn't say lucky, but certainly helped that the Chiefs just picked a bad day to have a lot of miscues. Drops, horrible play for Mahomes in the first half, no run game whatsoever to help out Mahomes when things were starting to go downhill in the air. The Eagles made their mistakes 10 times worse by compounding them when the Eagles were exploiting them. But you got to send 4, you have to contain. Because when you've got 7, you've got the ability, dropping in coverage, to leave one as a spy, just sit him right in the middle of the defense to follow and mirror Patrick Mahomes. But if you blitz that guy, Mahomes is going to get the ball out quickly, and his receivers have done a great job of getting yards after the catch, or he'll just be a magician and slip out and find a man wide open down the field. But this time the Eagles were ready for it. So big pat on the back to our old friend Vic Fangio for dialing up the perfect game plan for stopping Mahomes. Before we get to the rest of today's blueprint, quick shout out to our friends over at ZBiotics. Anyone who may not bounce back after a night of drinking as well as they used to should probably listen up. Let's face it, when going out, I have a choice to make. I can either have a great night or a great next day. That is until I found ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol. Pre-Alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to drink this probiotic before drinking alcohol, drink responsibly, and get a good night's sleep to feel your best tomorrow. So stay in the loop and go to zbiotics.com/chatsports or scan the QR code on screen right now to get 15% off your first order when you use code CHATSPORTS at checkout. I've got 3 bachelor parties coming up in the next 3 months, and ZBiotics will be my right-hand man to make sure I don't burn out halfway through those parties. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/chatsports and use the code CHATSPORTS at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, ZBiotics, for sponsoring this episode and our good times. Third and final recipe for the Eagles win, which there's probably more than 3 components, but the ones I want to highlight for Denver that they can copycat over to beating the Chiefs next year and years beyond that, invest in the offensive line. This was something that both teams have done well. The Eagles have, I'd say, the best offensive line, And the Chiefs probably had the second best offensive line. If it's not second, it's not very far behind, but it's a top 10 O-line, except for the most important spot on the offensive line, the left tackle. After letting Donovan Jackson go in free agency the season prior, they were ready to roll the dice at left tackle going into 2024. They had former third-round pick Wanya Morris on their roster. They used a day 2 draft pick on BYU's offensive tackle, Kingsley Suamatia. And they, after a duking battle in training camp, rolled with the rookie. After 2 weeks, they benched him. The Ravens game in week 2 was the line in the sand for Andy Reid to make the switch back to Wanya Morris, who did not even win the job in training camp. So you can see there's not a lot of confidence in him. Fast forward to week 14, and they had seen enough from Wanya Morris, and they decided, okay, we tried our best to roll with cheaper, younger options, and that's not a bad plan, but it didn't work out. We got to go out and get a proven veteran. So they signed DJ Humphries. Unfortunately, he immediately injured his hamstring. He only started one game up until week 18 when they played our Broncos, and they rested all their starters. So after week 14, they moved left guard Joe Thuney to left tackle. Not a bad plan. It worked out pretty well for a stretch until they ran into the Eagles. They ran into a juggernaut of a defensive line, and Joe Thuney was outmanned, outgunned, overpowered. He led to about half of the 15 pressures that Mahomes had on him. He was just a fish out of water. That was like the biggest, if you want to know, like, hey, what are the hardcore football guys thinking after the first quarter? It's, you got to get Joe Thuney the hell out of left tackle because he cannot hold his own right now. He just got bulldozed by a safety, or not even a safety, a 250-pound defensive end. That was a major, we have a problem, and our backup options, we don't trust. Humphries didn't even see a single snap. Wanya Morris was inactive, and they never returned to the rookie after week 2 until week 18 when he played a little bit of guard. It was tough. So this is a major learning lesson. The Chiefs have done a good job of it. I don't think their offensive line was a disaster by any stretch, but it just goes to show how important it is to invest in the uglies. You got to get the big guys up front. You're not going to go very far without a very good offensive line. And the good news for Denver is they're at a good spot here. Quinn Miners, an all-pro caliber guard. Ben Powers, an above-average guard. Garrett Bowles, Mike McGlinchey. I'd say their ceiling is Pro Bowl level. You are getting 5, and then there's Luke Wattenberg. And the good news for him is he's in between Ben Powers and an all-pro and Miners, so you can usually hide an average center if he's in between two guards since he has help from his left and help from his right. But the offensive line for Denver is in a good spot. As for the front 5 for the Broncos, if we're talking about the other side of the football, it's also in a great spot. This is a front 5 that just led the NFL in sacks last season. And they don't have a lot of guys leaving. DJ Jones is going to be a free agent. You could bring it back, or, lucky for you, this is a loaded interior defensive line draft class. So if Ashton Genty and Tyler Warren are not there at pick number 20, go take Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. Go take Derek Harmon from Oregon and just replace, replenish, and go young at that spot right there. Like the Eagles have done. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis. They replaced the old guards of Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham. They didn't skip a beat. Kind of, I guess. Like they skipped a beat a little bit in 2023 after 2022 season where they had 70 sacks. So it took one season of recalibrating, and then they're right back at the top. Denver is set up well in the trenches. And we just saw how important it is for the Eagles, who had a great offensive line and a great defensive line. Those might not be the fun, splashy picks in the draft, but Denver's in a good spot right there. So who do you think is going to win the AFC West in 2025? Is the run for Kansas City finally going to end? Let me know in the comment section below if you feel like, yep, their time is done. It's over. Herb Brooks style. Before we sign off, I just want to give you guys a sneak peek at what is coming next. We're going to put out 2 videos today because I want to talk about Deebo Samuel's trade request, which I think Denver should be all ears to because he fits the mold of a joker that Sean Payton has publicly said numerous times he is looking for this offseason. So come back in a couple of hours to watch a video all about this. But we will continue our off-season trend to keep things light and fun here. I'm going to give you guys 5 seconds to think of a player from Super Bowl 50. I'll say my player. You say your player. Let me know if we say the same player. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Malik Jackson. I had to go with the trenches, and I went a little basic, but I didn't go Von Miller overly basic. So Malik Jackson, let me know if you said the same guy down below in the comment section.